Bonjour. So today we're going to talk about constellations. So the Greeks have their certain way of constellations, other cultures have their way of constellations, and us as Potawatomi also have our own constellations. And so we're going to talk about and explore some of those stories here today. So the way that I made this map here is that if you look on the top right side, you'll see each month. I put the Potawatomi word for the month also, as well as the English word for the month. If you look at the map itself, you will see, if you look at the white outside, those are winter months. If you look at the yellow on the top right of it, those are the spring months. If you look at the red, those are the summer months, along with the black are the fall months. And this is how you interpret what it will be in the sky during those months, is if you look at that there and see where it matches up. If you look at the right on the bottom, you will see each constellation's Potawatomi and Greek word for those constellations, as well as the translation for the Potawatomi. So if you look at what is known as the Little Dipper, is a constellation that consists of about 7 stars, and the end of the handle is the North Star. Now we see this a little bit different. The amount of stars is still the same, but we call this Nogos. Nogos. Mong is a loon, Nogos is a star, or group of stars. Nogos is the loon constellation. The North Star is on the back of him there, and if you want to say what the North Star is also called Nogos, meaning the loon star. Also, if you look at a loon, it has white spots all over his back. That's also depicting stars. Now we're going to look at the Big Dipper. So the Big Dipper in the English concept is just the pot with the handle on it. Ours is a little bit different. It extends out further, and what appears is you see what we call wajik. Wajik is a fisher cat. It's a type of weasel that no longer in this area, but is up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, up into Canada. Wajik is a fisher. Wajik Nogos is the fisher constellation, also known as the Big Dipper. He's also depicted as having an arrow in his tail. Now there is snow on the ground as I'm recording this, so I will talk about this story a little bit. A long time ago, there was this angry cloud spirit that was abducting these birds and trapping them up in the clouds. And all these birds just kept disappearing, and nobody could find out where they were. So the fisher, Wajik, took it upon himself. He was going to climb a cedar tree and jump through a Bodewadmi. Bodewadmi is a hole in the sky. So he climbed up the gishki, the cedar tree, and he jumped through that Bodewadmi, or the hole in the sky. And he came across these clouds up there, and this angry cloud spirit. And he noticed that in these clouds, where these birds were trapped in there, so he started spinning his tail real fast. He'd spin his tail, and he'd aim his tail up at the cloud, and it would disappear, and these birds would be released down through the Bodewadmi, or the hole in the sky. So he kept doing this and freeing all these birds, and this cloud spirit kept getting angrier and angrier. He took an arrow and shot him in the tail. Wajik then fell through the Bodewadmi and landed on earth and died, but he had saved all the birds, and for his sacrifice, the creator took stones and threw them up in the sky, and that became Wajik Nogos, the fisher constellation. If you look at what is called the Corona Borealis, it looks like it is a horseshoe shape, kind of. We see that as a sweat lodge, Mdodoswin. Mdodoswin is the sweat lodge constellation. And you'll notice that it is a spring constellation. That is the time in which we are supposed to fast when this is out there. Next to the Mdodoswin, or sweat lodge constellation, you will see what is known as the Hercules constellation. We call this Wanondishik. Wanondishik. As one who appears to be exhausted. This is depicting the person that was on the fast for 4 days and since went in the sweat lodge and came out and he is physically exhausted. Wenon Deshik. If you look in the summer sky, you will notice what is known as the summer triangle. We see this as a bear's head. We call this Mkosh Digwan Nogos. Mkosh Digwan. Bearhead star or bearhead constellation. Also, if you look to the bottom of it, you will see the Delphinius constellation. Now, we see that as Gigo Nogos, or the fish constellation. It appears to be in the bear's mouth as he is fattening himself up. Also, right in this constellation, you'll see what is known as the Summer Cross. We call this Jijak Nogos. Jijak Nogos. And that is the crane star, or the crane constellation. Jijak is a sandhill crane. If you look at what is known as the Pegasus constellation, we see it a little bit different. We call this Mos Nogos. Mos Nogos. And that is the moose constellation. And how we see it is his antler is actually broken if you look at that there too. Mos Nogos. The Capella constellation we call Mshika Nogos. Mshika Nogos. That is the turtle constellation. Next to that you will see the Gemini constellation. Now we call that Muk Nogos. Muk Nogos. That's the beaver star, or the beaver constellation. Right in there too, you will also see the Taurus constellation. Now, we see this as Bajukka Nogos. Bajukka Nogos. That is the buffalo constellation. The Orion constellation, we have 3 different interpretations of that here. One is being Ninikbos Nogos. Ninikbos Nogos. So Ninikbos is actually Nanabojo. It's known by many different names. Nanabojo, Wiska, Winabojo, Nanabush, the list goes on and on and on. But that word Nanabojo comes from Ninikbozo, which is a quivering tail. So the Orion is Ninikbos Nogos. The next interpretation of that constellation is Pondasa Nogos. Pondasa Nogos. Now, Pondasa is the winter maker, and this being a winter constellation, he's bringing snow. Pondasa Nogos. And the third interpretation of this constellation is Kchisaba Nogos. Kchisaba Nogos. That is the Bigfoot constellation. If you look down to the right-hand side of the Orion or Ninikbos Nogos constellation, you will see the Canis Major constellation. And we call that constellation Mo'oa Nogos. Mo'oa Nogos. That is the wolf constellation. The story behind that is, a long time ago, when Nanabojo was going around naming everything, he was accompanied by Mo'oa, a wolf. Soon later, after that, they departed ways. So that is depicting that old story there. Mo'oa Nogos. Later on into the winter, you will notice the Hydra constellation and the Leo constellation. The Hydra constellation we call Mshiganabuk Nogos. Mshiganabuk Nogos. So Ganabuk is a snake. Mshi means big. Mshiganabuk is the big snake star. So Mshiganabuk was actually the youngest brother of Nanabojo. Now, when he was born, it was said that he was so big that he killed the mother. And if you look over at the Scorpius constellation, you'll notice a figure shooting an arrow towards the Hydra constellation. That figure is Ninikbos or Nanabojo. So we have 2 Nanabojo constellations. Ninikbos Nogos, he is shooting an arrow towards Mshiganabuk for revenge on killing his mother. Now, he was unsuccessful in doing that. Mshiganabuk, he and Mshiganabuk had a big fight where he jumped on Mashiganabek's back and he started trying to kill him. He's beating him, and he's traveling all over the place trying to kill him. Now, every time that he hit him, pieces of Mashiganabek's scales would fall off in different places of the earth. And now those pieces of those scales are called Jiguanabuk. Jiguanabuk is flint. You find flint all over the earth. Now, Mashiganabuk went underground, and said he is so big that he would be able to wrap around the world and destroy it. Now, if you look at the head of Mashiganabuk, you will see the other part of the Leo constellation. Now, the Leo constellation in Greek is a lion. Now, it's kind of faced the other way in our interpretation of this constellation. Now, this figure here, being, we call Nambijo, or Mshibijo. Now, that is the big panther. That is the water panther, Nambijo Nogos. That is the keeper of the water. That's the water spirit. That's why when we go to waterways or rivers, we put Sama down or tobacco. Now, that is asking permission to enter that domain because he controls that. Now, Nambijo actually killed Nanabojo's brother Wabos, or Wabozo the rabbit. Wabozo, or Wabos, after he was killed, became Jibiabos. And he is the first one that we meet when we pass on to the other side. He's the spirit rabbit. Now, you also see the Scorpius constellation of Ninikbos shooting an arrow towards that way. Now, he is also shooting at Nambijo because he actually went out and tried to avenge his brother Wabos, and he actually killed a Nambijo. And so these are some of our constellations and our stories. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Keep in mind that there are other interpretations of these. These are just some of them that I've been told. Mamamina.